Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yes.
This time, we are
Yeah.
going into the world of Oscar Wilde,
Yes.
but not
Right.
the Oscar Wilde, you might think.
Exactly.
We're not just talking about
Uh-huh.
the plays.
The plays and the witty.
We have some essays.
Yes, a collection of his essays, some poetry, and even a letter from prison.
Interesting.
That's not
A side of him people don't really get to see much.
great. Yeah.
So I guess what we're hoping to do is really unearth some of those deeper thoughts from a writer
Yeah.
who's so well known
Uh-huh.
for that wit and cleverness.
Absolutely.
And really see what he thought about
Yeah.
beauty and art
Yeah.
and society.
Society and his own life.
Wow.
All of that. Yeah.
All right, so where should we begin?
Well, there was something that really stood out to me in the poetry.
Okay.
Particularly this poem, The Grave of Keats.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Love that one.
I mean, it's not simply just about mourning another poet.
Yeah.
It's really about the nature of beauty itself.
The imagery is just striking,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Poppies catching the evening rain and,
Yeah. And that basil tree.
yeah.
Enduring memory.
Yeah, it feels like he's
Yeah.
connecting beauty
Mm-hmm.
to nature, but also to something beyond that.
Yes. I
Something
think
that transcends time.
absolutely. And, that makes me think of how in his essays, he really explores this idea that life imitates art
Oh, wow.
more than art imitates life.
Interesting.
And he says in The Decay of Lying that art doesn't even have to be truthful
Wow.
to be impactful or beautiful.
So it's more about the feeling that it evokes.
Yes.
That's pretty radical.
It is for the time.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
his time. I mean, he was,
Yeah, he's really challenging
yeah,
those Victorian ideas
right.
about art being this tool for moral instruction.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying beauty has its own power, its own value, regardless of whether it's depicting reality in the way that people understood it.
Which is so interesting because then that makes me think like, well,
Yeah.
if art can really shape how we see the world,
Yes.
that kind of changes everything, right?
It completely flips the script
Yeah.
on everything and it makes me think about
Yeah.
his own life, too.
Okay, so Wilde,
Yeah.
he was known for being really flamboyant and
Yes, very much so.
a little over the top.
Yeah, always pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable.
Right. And I mean, in The Truth of Masks, he even talks about
yes.
this beauty of
Yes.
costumes and how
Mhm.
they can elevate art and
Yeah.
transform
Yes.
performer. And he has that great line where he says,
Uh-huh.
dress doesn't make a man,
Right.
but it can make an actor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he really understood that power
Yeah.
of presentation,
Yeah.
of kind of creating this illusion that allows us to explore different sides of ourselves in the world.
Mm.
And this kind of brings us to another key theme
Yeah.
in his work.
Yeah.
The dangers
Okay.
of excess and hedonism.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're taking a bit of a turn here.
A bit of a turn, yes.
We're going from
Yeah.
art and beauty
Yes.
to something a little darker.
A little bit darker.
So
Yeah.
how does this all play out?
So his own life
Yeah.
becomes really intertwined with all of this.
Okay.
His downfall, his imprisonment
Right.
for gross indecency,
Yeah.
it forces him to confront the consequences
Yeah.
of living a life that was devoted to pleasure
Mm-hmm.
and pushing those boundaries.
So he's living out
Yeah.
his philosophy,
Mhm.
but then reality hits.
Yes.
And so how does this change
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
views on beauty and art?
Well, in De Profundis, his letter from prison,
Right.
we see this really profound shift in his thinking.
Yeah.
He writes, "Sorrow and not pleasure is the supreme emotion."
Wow.
It's like he's saying that suffering,
Right.
not just beauty,
Yeah.
is this ultimate test of art and the human spirit.
So that's a stark contrast to
Yeah.
his earlier,
Yeah,
more flamboyant persona.
it really is
Yeah.
a complete shift.
Did this experience make him bitter
Mm.
towards society?
Well, it certainly sharpened his critique
Yeah.
of Victorian hypocrisy
Okay.
and moralism.
Right.
He was already known for,
Yeah.
satirizing society.
Yeah, in the plays.
In his place, particularly those double standards
Right.
applied to men and women.
Like in Lady Windermere's Fan.
Exactly.
Where everyone's struggling with secrets and reputation and
Yes.
the pressure to conform.
Yeah, those societal expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, even in a comedy,
Yeah.
like in An Ideal Husband,
Yes.
he has that line where he says,
Right.
nowadays, with our modern mania for morality, everyone has to pose as a paragon of purity.
Right.
And what's the result?
Uh-huh.
Y'all go over like 9 pins.
Yes.
Wow.
One after another.
He's not pulling any punches.
No, he's not.
He's basically saying that trying to appear perfect is unsustainable.
It is.
And maybe even a little dangerous.
Yeah, maybe even dangerous. Yeah.
And it makes you think about his own life again.
Yes.
You know, this idea that
his persecution.
Yeah.
You could argue that it was really fueled by that hypocrisy that he was satirizing.
that he was pointing out.
Yeah.
This society punishing him
Yeah.
for not conforming
Exactly. For not fitting into
to their definition of morality.
that narrow definition of morality. That's right.
And this makes me think about another theme that we see a lot in Wilde,
Okay.
which is this idea of a fluid identity.
Yes.
You know, this
Absolutely.
the who we are isn't fixed,
Right.
but something that we create and recreate. And I mean, the importance of being earnest
Oh, yes.
really plays with this.
It plays with it brilliantly.
Yeah, the characters creating alter egos
Yes.
to kind of escape.
To escape those social constraints?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To explore different parts of themselves.
Yes. And you know.
Like Jack.
Yes.
With his bun burying.
Yes.
Inventing a fake brother as an excuse.
Yes.
To get away from everything.
To get away from his responsibilities. Exactly.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But it also speaks to this desire that we have for freedom and self-expression.
Absolutely. And that tension between individual desires and expectations runs through so much of his work.
It does. He was constantly pushing those boundaries.
Yes, he was.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about hedonism.
Yeah.
Where does that fit into all of this?
Well, that's where the picture of Dorian Gray comes in. It's this novel that explores the pursuit of beauty and pleasure, but also the fear of aging and the potential for corruption.
The classic tale of selling your soul for eternal youth and beauty.
Exactly.
I'm guessing it doesn't.
Not so much. And well.
No, it's a cautionary tale.
Right.
You know, Lord Henry embodies Wilde's own wit and fascination with pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, and he has that famous line.
He does.
You know, the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it.
Yes.
So it seems like he's playing with fire.
He is.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And so the novel...
Yeah, the novel itself becomes a warning about the dangers of this excessive pursuit of pleasure.
Yeah.
Dorian's portrait reflects his moral decay.
Okay.
It becomes increasingly hideous.
Wow.
As he indulges.
Okay, so like a visual representation.
Yes.
Of the corruption of the soul.
Yes, exactly. So does he offer any solutions?
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
He connects this theme of repression to his essay, The Soul of Man Under Socialism.
Wait, socialism?
Yes. This is a surprising connection, I know.
A little unexpected.
A little unexpected.
From Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, okay.
But it makes sense when you consider his views on individualism.
Okay.
Wilde believed that socialism could actually foster true individualism.
Interesting.
By removing the constraints of poverty.
Yeah.
And allowing people to pursue their passions freely.
So it's not about conforming to a socialist ideal, but creating a society where people can be themselves.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, so Dorian Gray is a warning then.
It's a warning about the dangers of repressing your true self.
Yeah.
Of trying to fit into this mold that society dictates.
Yeah, wow.
It's really fascinating.
It is. The way that he connects all these things.
Yeah, it is.
It's not just these witty plays.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
He's so much more than just a witty playwright.
Absolutely.
Right.
He's a complex thinker who's challenging the way we think.
Yeah.
And exploring the human condition.
Yeah, and it seems like we've only just scratched the surface here.
I think we have. There's so much more to uncover. But I think we've given our listener plenty to ponder.
We have.
What stands out to you so far?
I think the thing that's hitting me the hardest is how his own life really mirrors his work.
Yeah.
This idea that he was living out his philosophy.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Almost to his detriment.
The way his experiences seem to just deepen and complicate his art. And it's not just those big dramatic moments like his imprisonment.
Right.
Even those witty aphorisms. Those little nuggets of wisdom that are just sprinkled throughout his work.
Yeah.
They seem to have a whole new layer
Yeah, they do.
The meaning when you consider his life.
We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
But then knowing his struggles,
Yeah.
it almost becomes bittersweet.
It does.
Like he's speaking from this place of deep understanding of human suffering,
Right.
but still urging us to find that beauty and meaning,
Right.
even in the darkest places.
Even in the darkest places. Yeah, and then he has that other line
Yeah.
that really makes you think, to live is the rarest thing in the world.
Oh, yes.
Most people exist. That is all.
Yeah.
It's almost like a challenge.
It is a challenge to really experience life,
Yeah.
not just go through the motions.
Yeah. And it makes you think about how he chose to live his life.
Exactly.
Defying those social norms, pursuing his passions.
Yeah.
Even when it led to his downfall.
Even when it led to his downfall. Yes.
It's like he's saying,
yeah,
yes, there are risks.
Yeah.
There are consequences.
Sure.
But living authentically
Yeah.
is worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what makes him so relevant today.
Yeah.
His ideas about individuality, about art and beauty, about challenging those societal expectations.
Yeah.
They're still so incredibly powerful.
It makes me wonder what aspects of our modern world do you think he would satirize?
Oh, he would have a field day with social media.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I can just imagine him scrolling through Instagram and
seeing all those perfectly curated lives.
And just be horrified.
And saying, social media where everyone has a voice, but no one is listening.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know, and he'd probably be horrified by our obsession with documenting every moment.
Yeah. You know, sacrificing real experience. Yeah. For that perfect photo op.
Right. Right. And always being connected.
Yes.
And available.
24/7, 24/7. Yeah.
He'd be very skeptical of that.
Yeah. He might say something like, to be connected is to be tethered.
Right.
And the modern soul yearns to soar.
Yes.
Something like that.
Beautiful.
Probably have a lot of fun with art.
With our obsession with self-improvement.
Yes.
Always striving for the next level.
Yeah.
The next achievement. The next better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, he might suggest that we become so focused on achieving this idealized version of ourselves that we've forgotten to embrace the beauty of imperfection.
Totally. But I also think he would find a lot of hope.
I think so, too.
In our growing awareness of social issues.
Yes.
You know?
The conversations we're having.
The conversations that we're having.
About equality and justice and challenging the status quo.
I agree. I think, remember his idea of socialism as this way to liberate individuals?
Yeah.
I think he would be very encouraged by the movements that are advocating for social change and creating space for people to express themselves more fully.
It's like his work is this bridge between the past and the present.
It is reminding us that a lot of these challenges that we're facing are really rooted in the same social structures and human tendencies that he was grappling with.
Over a century ago.
Yeah.
And through his
wit.
His satire.
That's the satire,
His observations.
His profound observations.
That gives us tools.
Tools to navigate those challenges.
Yes, to question those assumptions. And find that meaning and beauty.
Right.
Even in the midst of the absurdity.
This has really
opened my eyes to his complexity.
I think he was so much more than just a purveyor of witty one-liners.
He really was.
He was a visionary who understood the power of art to reflect and challenge the world around us.
And that brings us to another fascinating part of his work. Which is his complex relationship with society. Wilde was, you know, such a keen observer of those hypocrisies and contradictions.
A Victorian England? Absolutely.
A Victorian England. And
he wasn't afraid.
He wasn't afraid.
He used his wit and satire
to point them out.
To expose them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he was considered quite scandalous in his time.
Very much so.
Right. His plays often pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable.
Of what was considered acceptable.
Especially when it came to sexuality.
And social norms.
And social norms.
Yes.
But that's what makes them so brilliant.
That's what makes them so brilliant.
It was holding up a mirror to society.
To society.
And forcing people.
Forcing them to confront.
To confront their own prejudices and blind spots.
Their own prejudices and blind spots, exactly.
And he did it with such style.
And he did it with such style and panache.
Lady Windermere's Fan.
Yes.
It's a
brilliant satire.
Brilliant satire.
Of Victorian morality.
Of Victorian morality, yeah, exposing the hypocrisy.
Yes.
That's lurking beneath that veneer of respectability.
Yes, and it's so cleverly constructed.
Yeah.
You know, that plot twisting and turning.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It does.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think about the complexities of those social conventions.
Yeah.
He was a master of blending entertainment with social commentary.
He was.
And he wasn't afraid to poke fun at the upper classes.
The upper classes, yeah.
You know, the very people.
The people
that were flocking to his plays.
Yeah, who were going to see his plays.
Exactly.
And he also had a lot to say.
He did.
About the role of art.
Yes.
In society. Remember his idea that art should be beautiful. And thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking.
Yeah, he believed.
He did.
That art should challenge the status quo.
Challenge the status quo, not reinforce it.
Not reinforce it.
Exactly.
He was a champion
of
aestheticism.
You know, this idea that art should be judged solely on its beauty, not on its moral or social message.
Yeah, which is interesting because he also recognized the potential for beauty to be corrupted.
Yes.
Like in Dorian Gray.
Exactly.
Right? This pursuit of beauty.
Yes, that pursuit of beauty and youth leads to moral decay. Yes, it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of valuing external appearances over that inner virtue.
Over inner virtue, yeah.
And I think that duality, that awareness of both the beauty and the potential darkness of human nature.
That's what makes his work so compelling.
That's what makes it so compelling.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Like he's constantly pushing us.
Yes.
To think critically.
Yes. To question.
To question what we see on the surface.
What we see on the surface and consider the deeper implications of our choices and desires.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating. And that's why I think his work is so relevant today.
It really is.
Yeah.
He reminds us that life is full of complexities and contradictions, and that true beauty often lies in embracing those contradictions. Those contradictions, exactly.
Yeah. It's amazing how he could be so witty and entertaining.
Yeah.
And still manage to, you know, weave in these deep, thought-provoking ideas.
That's the genius of his work.
It is.
It's that he never hits you over the head with a message.
Right.
It's like he's inviting you to think for yourself. To question those assumptions.
Yeah.
And to find your own meaning.
Right.
In the beauty and the chaos of life.
You know, we've talked a lot about his critiques of society.
Right.
But I'm also curious about his proposed solutions.
Right.
He wasn't just...
Right. He wasn't just pointing out problems.
Yeah.
He had some radical ideas about how to create a more just and equitable society.
Okay.
And these ideas might actually surprise you. Sure. Remember when we touched on that essay, The Soul of Man Under Socialism?
Yeah, that was the one where I really had trouble wrapping my head around this idea of socialism with Oscar Wilde.
It seemed counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But his vision of socialism wasn't about stifling individuality.
Right.
Or creating this kind of drab, uniform society.
Right. It was almost the opposite.
It was the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was he proposing?
Yeah. What was he proposing?
He believed that socialism, by removing the burdens of poverty and providing for those basic needs would actually liberate individuals to pursue their passions and develop their own unique talents.
Okay.
He saw it as a way to level the playing field, to create a society where everyone had the opportunity to flourish.
That's a pretty radical idea.
He is.
For his time.
Especially considering, you know, the rigid class system and social hierarchies.
The Victorian England?
Of Victorian England.
So he was a visionary.
He was a visionary.
In a lot of ways.
Always pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, always pushing the boundaries of conventional thinking.
Of conventional thinking, yes.
He recognized that
he did.
True progress requires more than just...
More than just economic equality.
Economic equality.
It requires a shift in values.
A shift in values. What kind of values?
He believed in a society that valued individual expression and creativity above all else.
Okay.
A society where people were free to be themselves, to pursue their passions, and to create beauty in all its forms.
So his vision of socialism was about more than just
redistributing wealth.
Redistributing wealth.
It was about fostering a culture that celebrated individuality and the pursuit of beauty.
Which is interesting because it's very relevant.
Incredibly relevant.
For us today.
Today, yes. We're living in a time of increasing inequality.
Right.
Where the pursuit of wealth and status often overshadows everything else.
It does.
And so his call for a society that prioritizes individual fulfillment over material gain feels incredibly timely.
Incredibly timely. And it's like this whole deep dive has been like peeling back layers.
I know. It's like
peeling back the layers of an onion.
By the time we think we've got him figured out,
we find another layer.
There's another layer of
complexity.
Of complexity. Yeah. Another surprising insight.
Surprising insight. Yeah, he was.
He was a master of contradiction, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
This witty socialite.
Yeah.
Who championed the downtrodden.
Right.
A lover of beauty who understood the darkness of the human soul.
Yeah.
And through it all, he never lost his sense of humor.
He never lost his sense of humor. I think that's what makes him so enduring.
I think so too.
You know, he never
lets us get complacent.
Lets us get complacent in our thinking.
In our thinking, no.
He challenges us to question everything. To embrace the contradictions.
Yes.
And to find beauty.
To find beauty even in
the most unexpected places.
The most unexpected places, yes.
Beautifully put.
Well, thank you. As we kind of wrap up this deep dive
into the world of Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
I think that's a
key takeaway.
I'd
like our listeners to remember,
that he was more than just a witty playwright.
Yes.
He was a profound thinker.
He challenged us. Who challenged us to live more authentic.
To live more authentic.
To embrace our individuality.
To embrace our individuality.
And to never stop searching for beauty.
Right.
Even in a world?
Even in a world, yeah.
That often tries to define it for us. Exactly.
And on that note, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
On this journey into the brilliant and complex mind of Oscar Wilde. He really had a way with words.
He did.
It's incredible.
You know, weaving those deep ideas into something entertaining and thought-provoking.
We talked a lot about his critiques of society. But I'm curious, what about solutions?
Right? Did he offer...
Did he just point out problems?
Yeah, was he just...
Or did he have...
Complaining? Did he have any ideas?
Maybe it's about how...
For how to fix things.
To make things better.
And he did.
He did.
He had some pretty radical ideas, actually.
Okay.
About creating a more just and equitable society.
Okay.
And these might surprise you.
Right. Lay it on me.
Remember that essay?
Okay.
The Soul of Man Under Socialism?
The one where I was...
Yes. One where you were struggling.
Like the word socialism.
With the word socialism, yes. Yeah. It does seem counterintuitive.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But his vision of socialism wasn't about stifling individuality or creating this kind of drab uniform world.
Right. It was the opposite.
It was quite the opposite. Yeah. So what was he proposing? Well, he believed that socialism, by removing poverty and meeting those basic needs, would actually free people up.
Interesting. So to develop their talent.
To develop their talents, to pursue their passion.
To pursue their passions, okay.
Yeah, he saw it as this way.
Right.
To level the playing field.
Yeah.
You know?
And give everyone that opportunity.
Give everyone that opportunity to flourish.
Yeah.
Pretty radical for his time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Especially considering, you know, that rigid class system.
Victorian England.
Not exactly known for... Egalitarianism, no.
Yeah.
But... So he was a visionary.
He was ahead of his time. In a lot of ways.
Pushing those boundaries of conventional thinking.
Yeah, he really recognized that true progress requires more.
Yes.
more than just economics. Economic equality. Yeah, it requires a shift. A shift in values. A shift in values. Okay, so yes. What kind of values? Well, he believed in a society that valued individual expression. Creativity above all else. Where people were free to be themselves. To pursue their passions. To pursue their passions. And to create beauty. And to create beauty. In all its forms. In all its forms. So it wasn't just about... No, it wasn't just about redistributing the wealth. And redistributing wealth. It was about the culture. Fostering a culture that celebrated. Individuality. Individuality. And the pursuit of beauty. The pursuit of beauty. Yeah. And that's... Yeah, and that's... really relevant, I think. Incredibly relevant. It's today. For today. I mean... You know, we're living in this time... We are. ...of increasing inequality, where the pursuit of wealth and status... Overshadows everything else. Yes. Yeah, so that call. Yeah, that call for prioritized individual fulfillment. Over material gain. Feels very timely. It's like, you know, this whole deep dive has been... I know, it's like... peeling back layers of an onion. Peeling back the layers of an onion. Every time you think you've got him figured out. Yeah. There's another layer. Of complexity. Another surprising insight. He was a master of contradiction, wasn't he? He was. You know, this witty socialite who championed... the downtrodden. The downtrodden. A lover of beauty who understood the darkness of the human soul. Right. And through it all. He never lost his sense of humor. No. I think that's what makes him... so enduring. He never lets us get... complacent. In our thinking. He challenges us. To question everything. To embrace the contradiction. To define beauty. Even though in those unexpected places. Yeah. And on that note, I want to thank you. For joining us on this journey. Yes, thank you for joining us. Into the brilliant and complex mind. Of Oscar Wilde. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something too. And until next time.